Hello, YouTube world. It is Gordon Causey. I see I have someone watching, and of course, as always, Candy. I'm back after, I guess it was a 10 or 11 day break, and we'll get Candy taken care of. She missed me, I think. Shake it off. Speak. Okay, she's doing it all. I got jumped on. I basically have been offline, off the grid for the last 10 or 11 days. My last starting on Thursday, the last whatever date that was, the 30th or 31st of August, the last Thursday of August, we headed out and we got back this late this afternoon, early this evening. And before I get going, I'll just say, the usual like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff that everyone says at the start of their videos. Can't believe I picked up a number of subscribers while I was away. Maybe I should stop doing these. Anyway, so I've been offline completely for 10, 11 days. And it's a bit of an apprehensive feeling, a little bit, not too much. I kept myself occupied. But in the back of the mind is knowing how fast things can change. There's the concern that what if something significant happens? Think of people who, were down traveling in March of 2020, were away traveling, and then all of a sudden, lockdowns and everything else. And I had to acknowledge in the back of my mind that, there's a potential something major could happen while I'm away, but nothing major did. It seems to me that it's been a soap opera. Incidentally, I see I have one or two people watching. If you want to comment, I noticed I only just discovered this recently. There's a button I can hit, and it's top chat or live chat. And top chat, you only get the top messages, whatever that means, and who decides what message is worthy to be shown, or live chat, in which all messages are shown. So I switched it. It defaults to top chat, and I made it live chat. But anyway, so I've been trying to get caught up, but it doesn't seem like there's a great deal to get caught up on. It just seems a continuation of everything that's been happening. I made a prediction April 30th. You can check back my video. About 3 predictions. The date of that video that I made it was April 30th. And I was predicting, the first prediction I made was that by the end of this summer, by September 21st, 2023, that there would be the declaration of a climate emergency, maybe a war on climate change or something like that. And it still hasn't happened. And there are only now 11 days left in the summer of 2023. So will that prediction prove right? Will it prove wrong? Only we'll know within the next 11 days. I was just reading an article by some website that I'm not very familiar with. It's called Democracy Now! Independent Global News. Strikes me as being on the left side of the political spectrum. And the headline, if you want to search it out, I didn't provide the link. Amid record heat in D.C., protesters at White House demand Biden declare climate emergency. And it has a picture of, like a road sign with a yellow background and the diagonal slashes. And says, President Biden, then in red, on a red background with white lettering, it says declare a climate emergency. And then underneath that, it sends end fossil fuel. And it has protesters carrying signs. One says tomorrow will be way too late. And another one says Biden declare climate emergency. And I can't read what's underneath that. Doesn't matter. And apparently, for the first time in recorded history, always important to underline recorded history, Washington, D.C. has achieved triple-digit 100-degree plus temperatures in September. First time ever in recorded history. How long have they been keeping records? Probably going back to the 1950s, maybe to the 1800s. But when you're talking about climate and climatic cycles that can last centuries, I've talked in my previous videos about the medieval warming period when climate change was gripping the northern hemisphere, and Greenland became Greenland because the ice sheets rolled back so much that the Vikings established permanent settlements. That climactic cycle started around 950 AD and ran till just about 1400, so 450 or so years. And then after that medieval warming period came a period called the Little Ice Age, and that climactic cycle ran from the 1400s into the 1700s, maybe right up until the early 1800s. So these cycles of warming and cooling can last 400 to 500 years, and we've only been keeping records maybe 100 years or so at most. And so when we hear, the warmest day ever in recorded history, to me, that is like trying to judge how your day is going to go based on the first 2 seconds after you wake up in the morning. It's far too small a sample size for it to be given too much weight. But of course, when you're forget science, we're not dealing with science, we're dealing with political agendas. And when we're dealing with political agendas, anything that will push the narrative will get thrown out there. So there very much is still all this talk of a climate emergency. There are people advocating for it, groups advocating for it, but nothing's happened yet. It's just a question of whether the senior levels within the Biden administration, at least in terms of talking about the United States, will the senior advisors in the Biden administration go to their addled commander-in-chief and have him sign something? I don't think Biden makes any decisions on his own. He just does what he's told. He's a puppet, in my view. So that's the climate side. On the COVID side of things, everything, again, is still status quo. There's articles talking about the fact that a number of health care type facilities in Canada, where I live, are mandating masks again. But there's an article that I read that came out within the last 2-3 days saying that Ontario, at least at the provincial level, will not be mandating masks on students. Thank you, God, for that. I think it was the last video I did. I outlined my anti-mask stance and the rationale behind it. Adults don't know how to handle medical grade personal protective equipment. And if adults can't wear and handle their masks properly, we can't expect children to do the same. So leave the kids be. I mean, obviously, if anyone wants to wear a mask, what are you going to do? But forcing it on someone, mandating it, making it illegal to be unmasked in a congregate setting, go away. There was an article that I saw that, this is our mainstream media. This is CBC News, and it came out August 28th. So just prior to me going away. And it struck me, this is CBC News, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This is government-funded news in Canada. And it's under the heading of politics, which is fitting. It belongs under politics, doesn't belong under science. And it says, braced for an increase in COVID cases, Health Canada considers 3 new vaccines. That's the headline. I'll say it again. Braced for an increase in COVID cases, Health Canada considers 3 new vaccines. And then the subheading is, if authorized for use, new vaccine formulations will roll out this fall. I find this the most disingenuous reporting one can absolutely imagine, because you talk about, there's an old expression I like to use about sucking and blowing at the same time, basically talking out of both sides of your mouth. This article talks about the vaccine that's coming out this fall for COVID as if they're in one sentence, they'll be talking about it as if there's a chance it might not be, hence if, if authorized for use. But then later, the article talks about it like it's a slam dunk that they will be authorized, with early signs indicating the COVID-19 caseload is poised to grow in the weeks ahead. Health Canada is considering 3 new vaccines specifically designed to target an Omicron subvariant of the virus. The department told CBC News Monday that new mRNA vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna have been part of a months-long review process, and supplies could start to roll out in the fall. So that makes it sound like, well, it's not a done deal. Then it says a third non-mRNA product from Maryland-based vaccine maker Novavax is also on Health Canada's radar, but the department hasn't yet received a formal submission from the company. The timeline is similar to what is planned south of the border. Planned? How can you plan for something that isn't even authorized, that hasn't received proper government regulatory approval? But that's similar to what is planned south of the border. The U.S. is poised to release an updated COVID booster in late September once regulators there sign off on the new shots. So now they're making it sound like a done deal. Once the regulators there sign off, they're going. These new vaccines are designed for the XBB.1.5 Omicron subvariant now in widespread circulation. When asked how many doses of these products the country is set to receive, a Health Canada spokesman wouldn't give an exact figure, but said in a media statement that there will be an ample supply of the new formulation. Well, how can you say that? It should be, well, if we approve it, then there would be an ample supply. But they're saying there will be an ample supply. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla has said the company's shots are ready to be deployed as soon as regulators authorize their use. It's not if, as soon as they authorize their use. Novavax protein-based XBB COVID vaccine candidate will not be available until later this year, pending authorization, Health Canada said. That shot is an option for people who are unwilling or unable to receive an mRNA vaccine. While the number of reported COVID-19 cases remains lower than in the past, some agencies, notably Public Health Ontario, have reported an uptick in positive test results. And if you want to read it, I'll post in the comment section. I mean, this is old news now. It's more than 10 days old. But my second prediction that I made in that April 30th video was that we would see a reemergence of COVID in the fall. There would be a new health emergency. And I said it might be COVID, it might be flu, it might be RSV, it might be something else, it might be multiples. And I tend to lean toward the multiples, the so-called tridemic of COVID, flu, and RSV, respiratory syncytial, or however you pronounce that, syncytial virus. That is apparently so common that they say something like 98%. I've read that 98% of Canadians have contracted it by the age of 2. But I put that CBC News link up in the comment field. It posted it, so it looks like I can still share news links in at least one fashion, something Canadians are prevented from doing now by, I've tried on Facebook, I can't. I don't try on Instagram because while I do have an account, I never use it because I don't have a cell phone. And so, I mean, there you go. So that's where the world is right now. If anyone has a comment about something they think has changed significantly in the last 2 weeks, it doesn't appear that much has. In my last video, I referenced the fact that Alex Jones, who I'm not a big fan of, I don't go to his site, I don't pay attention to him, but he's background noise. We're all to one degree or another. Everyone's in an echo chamber. I'm in an echo chamber just like everyone else. So the views and the opinions that I tend to hear most often are echoes of what I already believe anyway, which is boring and non-productive and hence my YouTube channel. Why do I do this? Part of the reason is because I want to try and inject my voice into the public discourse, and I think this is a good venue for doing it. My miserable, pathetic, unmonetized channel. I've said it before. I think I express myself in a reasonably decent fashion, and that I'm out of the mold of how, someone such as myself who is anti-mask, who has refused any of the COVID shots. The predominating narrative is that everyone in this camp that I'm in, that we're all knuckle dragging troglodytes, MAGA hat wearers who didn't even graduate high school, and we can't put a sentence together like the president of the United States. And that's the narrative. And it's done on purpose. The reason that is done is to herd people and to push them toward the side they want them to go. And the side they want you to go is they want you wearing a mask, and they want you rolling up your sleeve every 6 months. So they try to make it appear that anyone who hasn't done those things, who is refusing the masks, is declining the shots. Well, they're all idiots. They're all, to use Hillary Clinton's old tune from the 2016 election, they're all a bunch of deplorables. I don't think I fit the description. I don't think I fit the stereotype that they're trying to promote. And so hence why I try and inject myself into the public discourse. YouTube is a good way to do that. If you can help me out by subscribing, liking, sharing, fantastic. If you like but if you do think I fit that narrative, if you don't think I express myself well, if you don't think my videos have any value, well, do none of the above. But there was another thing in that article that came out that just occurred to me, talking about some Canadians. This is from that article I've linked in the comments. It says, well, first it says the new formulation of the vaccines could help with these subvariants, which are strains of the virus descended from the original Omicron. So they could. They won't even say they will. They can't. This is the annoying part. Sometimes CBC does adhere to a certain degree. They have a modicum of ethics. And so they don't say they will, they say they could. That means, and that infers automatically, if someone says, well, they could help, that also means they may not help at all. Either they're saying they don't know. We don't know if they'll help or not. They could help or they could not. And then the next paragraph said, some Canadians remain opposed to taking COVID-19 vaccines. Health Canada sought to reassure those people that the products are going through an independent process that is based on, quote, scientific rigor and medical evidence. This is disingenuous because some Canadians remain opposed to taking COVID-19 vaccines. Now that is the majority. If you go to Health Canada's own website, over 90% of Canadians are ignoring the advice of Health Canada to get a shot if it's been 6 months or more since their last dose or since their last infection with COVID. So they're saying if it's been 6 months since you had your last shot and since your last time being infected with COVID, then you should get a booster. And less than 10% of Canadians are following that advice. I think it's something like 6 or 7% of Canadians are so-called up to date on their COVID vaccinations. So it's not just, the article is framing it as some Canadians. Well, no, it's over 90% of Canadians have tapped out, and they're no longer following the advice of our health officials. My personal non-expert view on that, I applaud it. I think skepticism, I think critical thinking, I think being wary is the wise course of action. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Once again, like, share, subscribe. I've said it enough already. God bless everyone. We'll see if anything significant happens in the coming days. I'll probably do a video later in the week. We'll see what's happening in the world. Doesn't look like I'd missed anything. Looks like I was able to take the last week or the first week of September rather, and basically tap out of everything and come back and find out that as the world turns, the soap opera just continues and they haven't changed the plot lines. Everything seems to be going the same as it has been. Comments are welcome. We'll talk to you very soon. God bless.